All right. So now we are actually recording. It's live, man. It's not live, but
I just put my chapstick on.
Does that help you with the radio voice?
I think it will help. And I drink coffee every day, and I didn't even drink a coffee this morning because I didn't want to have like milk voice,
Right.
So yeah, I just have to do my warm-ups. I think I'm ready.
You are listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, where nurses, doctors, students, and other healthcare professionals bring you stories from scrubs across the nation. Tune in today with NSR's Derek J.
So welcome to NSR, that's National Scrubs Radio. This is Derek J, your host. So my guest today, his name is Nurse Blake. You can check his blog out on nurseblake.com. So do you remember the craze about the male romper on social media? Well, Nurse Blake is the creator of the Scrubs romper, and you've probably seen him in a pair on social media. Nurse Blake also goes over a topic, just in case you didn't know, gay men were banned for life from donating blood. So he started a campaign in 2013 to help change some of those regulations. We briefly touch base on the Pulse shootings, the club in Orlando, Florida that Nurse Blake has visited and knows the community very well. He also goes over his experience going through gay conversion therapy. This is a program that's founded by a Christian institution that tries to change the sexuality of a person because they consider it a sin. And Nurse Blake goes over much more in this episode. Here's Nurse Blake. So welcome to NSR, that's National Scrubs Radio. I have my guest today. His name is Nurse Blake. How are you doing, Nurse Blake?
I'm doing good. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Been following a little bit about your blog. Can you just tell me, man, how you got into this blog deal of yours at nurseblake.com?
Yeah. So I wanted to start a blog, and I feel that every nurse should have a blog because we all have great stories, and I feel that we could all inspire each other. So I encourage any nurse who wants to get into blogging, go ahead and do it.
It's tough. It's tough, though, man. I mean, it takes a lot of work, right? I mean, I'm sure you put a lot of sweat into this blog.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you definitely have to do it for fun. Like, I don't ever want to turn into like a business for me. I just want to do it because I'm enjoying it and because I'm having a good time. And what I'm learning is that I'm sharing these different aspects of my crazy life, and that I'm not alone, that other nurses relate to me. They all shop at Target, drink coffee, sleep, when
Netflix.
They're not working for 4 days. Netflix, yep.
So, Nurse Blake, what's next for your blog?
Yeah, so I have a few interesting topics coming up. I interviewed a patient who suffers from sickle cell anemia, and she's put a list together of 5 things sickle cell patients want you to know about them. And I also did an interview with someone who's transitioning from female to male. And just things healthcare providers to know. And it should
go back to the sickle cell thing. Like, what were some things that you want nurses to know, or
I started Banned4Life because my friend in nursing school suffers from sickle cell anemia. So she would not have the best hospital stays. Like, she's been hospitalized almost 100 times. And when she goes in, she knows what pain meds she needs. And she needs Dilaudid, but yet nurses want to go and give Tylenol.
Not 2 milligram, not 4 milligram. Yeah, I've seen them 8 milligram.
Right, I know. And a lot of nurses are scared to give that. Maybe it's their first time with a patient. But these sickle cell patients are being admitted because of pain control or blood transfusion. So those are the 2 main reasons. So the person I interviewed, she's been hospitalized over 100 times, just 7 times in the past 6 months. So she has some things she wants nurses to know about it. And I really hope it helps nurses see these patients differently.
Now, I have an interesting story about sickle cell.
Okay.
So I think you went to the University of Central Florida, if I remember correctly.
Go Knights.
There you go. I say go Bulls because I went to the University of South Florida. A little rivalry there. But anyways, USF did the first penile reduction surgery.
No.
Due to sickle cell.
Really?
Yes. Because what's priapism? Do you know what priapism is?
Okay. Right.
Okay, right. Okay, so think about like what happens to sickle cell patients that have priapism. Have you ever heard about that?
No, tell me.
Yeah. So they infarct. They throw a clot or something and it's a one-way valve, right? And then
Right.
they get the whole, like, if this happens for 4 hours, go see your nearest doctor kind of thing, right? Which probably
Right.
for them, it's not 4 hours. They're probably in a lot of pain. But this dude had like so many attacks down there that it had so much scar tissue. They said it was like the equivalent of a football and a grapefruit, put together.
Oh my! I couldn't imagine.
Like
That's
they say, he
crazy.
said it wasn't even functional. Like he's like, how am I supposed to enjoy this damn thing? Because
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. When was this?
this was like, I know, like a year or two ago, but it hit national news because guys are always talking about I gotta get a penile reduction surgery, joking around, but this
Yeah,
dude could
right.
literally go to a party and say that.
And say that. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I didn't. Who would think about that? Like, I
Who would
wouldn't
think
think
about
like,
that?
yeah, I wouldn't think like the guy got a reduction surgery because of sickle cell. I would think maybe it was
Right.
like congenital or I don't know what the
Right.
So.
So that's probably not going to be in my blog because I interviewed a female. So probably not going to touch on that. But I'm also interviewing someone who's transitioning from female to male. So some things that the transgender community wants nurses to know about them. So I think that'll be pretty interesting.
So, like, I see the blog and everything, and you've been in healthcare. How did you get started in healthcare? Because we exchanged emails, and you said that you started at a very young age.
Yeah, I started working as a patient transporter in Orlando when I was about 17 years old. And that was actually one of my favorite jobs because it was just so relaxed and so much fun. Just being able to chat with the patients was great. And then from there,
Well, I'm surprised that I'm surprised hospitals hire 17-year-olds. Like usually the 17-year-olds I see in the hospital are the volunteers.
okay, yeah. Maybe I was just a mature 17-year-old. Maybe I had a fake ID that I was 18. I don't know.
Fake ID, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and then I was a surgical assistant, and then I got into patient care tech, and then got my nursing degree.
so what did you do after you got your nursing degree? Like, how did you go transition from transporter to nurse to this blog? Describe that process.
It's just kind of, I never am too focused on the future, and I never focus too much on the past. Like, I'm just always in the now. So if there's ever an opportunity that arises, I just take it. I think the one thing I've learned from being a nurse is that we only live once, and this is our one chance to live how we want. So any opportunity that comes my way, I give it a shot and see how it goes, and then go from there. But I saw the ROMPIM. I don't know if you saw the ROMPIM.
Is it the male rompers?
Yes, the male rompers.
Yes, I did see it. I didn't know what to think about it.
Do you not have one? You don't own one?
No, I'm not a romper, that's for sure. No.
Okay. Well, well, me neither. But I saw it and I was like, that thing looks so comfortable. Nurses
Right.
need them for scrubs, but it was a total joke. And I had just started my blog like a week before I saw the ROMPIM. And of course, like no one was following or reading what I was posting. And I told Brett, who's my husband, I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a scrub romper. And I literally ran to my closet and got an old pair of scrubs. And then with the glue, scissors, whatever, pins, I pinned that shit together and I made the scrub romper. And I posted a video and it just kind of went, I don't know if it went viral, if you say it went viral.
You're the guy that's on Facebook or social media with his legs crossed and a scrub romper, right?
Yeah, that's me.
You're that guy.
I'm the scrub romper guy. Yeah. So, it was picked up on like local media. My grandmother lives in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I was currently living in Houston, Texas. And she's like, I was just sitting at home one evening and you came on the news. She's like, you were dancing in your romper. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's hilarious. That thing went far.
If it
hit.
Yeah.
Were you expecting that kind of response or was it just like, wow, this?
No, I just thought it would be funny for my friends to see, me acting a fool. But I had no idea like local news stations were going to pick it up. GQ wrote an article about it.
No.
Yeah, they did.
That's hilarious, man.
I'm really mad they didn't put me on the cover, but maybe next time.
Yeah, I gotcha. But still, to make it in that magazine, that's an accomplishment.
It's pretty cool. But anyway, So now I have this blog and I just put memes out there and just trying to be an advocate for nurses and patients.
Yeah, and I saw something called Banned4Life. that it's a campaign that, did you start that, or how did you help promote that? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So if you didn't know, the FDA since the 80s has banned gay and bisexual males from donating blood for life.
For life?
For life. At the time I started Banned4Life, they had a permanent donation ban on gay and bisexual males. And this is in 2013. I was in nursing school. One of my really good friends suffered from sickle cell anemia, and she was always in the hospital getting blood transfusions. And then I thought to myself, I've never donated blood before. I might as well go and give it a shot.
Right.
I'm going to be a nurse. I'm going to be in healthcare. Why not? Why not go donate, try to save a life? So I drove to my local blood center. It was so cool because you go in there, you're so excited. There's posters on the wall that say, give blood. There's a shortage, help save a life. Then you fill out this questionnaire. It's so long. It's like 50 some questions. And one of the questions is, are you a male who's ever had sexual contact with another male since 1977?
Okay.
So I checked yes. And the tech went over my questionnaire and said, I'm sorry, but you can't donate blood. You're a gay male. And the FDA has a ban on gay men from donating blood. I was like, what?
Yeah. I mean, like, I didn't know that that's still like happening. Is it still happening today with the life ban?
So let me tell you. So I started Banned4Life in 2013 to raise awareness on the ban. So what I did, got a bunch of volunteers from around the nation, actually, and we held blood drives to educate the public on the ban and to encourage those who are banned to have someone else donate blood in their place. So we wanted to raise awareness, but also still do good. We didn't want to protest, ban blood drives or anything. But after 2 years of fighting the FDA, in December of 2015, the FDA actually lifted the lifetime ban. So it's not a lifetime ban anymore.
So what's in place now?
So that's, there's always one step forward and 2 steps back. Yeah. So it's not a lifetime ban anymore, but it's a 1-year ban.
Wow.
Which still doesn't make sense. So a gay male or bisexual male would have to abstain from sex for 1 year before being able to donate blood. And I ain't doing that.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's almost impossible I would think, for most people, whether you're straight or not, especially at what age you're donating. So, well, that's a big accomplishment, at least for a campaign that you started, and then they actually made at least a decision of moving something forward. Now, I remember you're from Florida, right? You're from Central Florida, if I remember correctly.
From Orlando, yep.
So was this an issue during the Pulse shootings out there?
So it was. I, growing up as a gay male in Orlando, I would go to Pulse right before me and my husband got married last year. We went to Pulse to go celebrate. And then the Pulse shooting happened, and it was horrible.
Yeah.
But the community did come together, and everyone was trying to donate blood. And there was a meme going around social media saying that the need for blood was so urgent that they were accepting donors no matter what their sexual orientation was. And it just wasn't true. So I was contacted by the New York Times to write an op-ed about the blood ban and how it affected, the blood supply, especially after the Pulse shooting. It was just horrible. And it's still hard for me to think about what happened last year at Pulse. Being from there and knowing people.
Yeah, I was about to say, you probably know the community out there. You've actually been there before. So were any of your friends affected in that area, or was it just people that you knew personally?
Oh, yeah. And, a lot of my friends lost friends or lost family members that night.
Wow.
But when I was working as a tech in Orlando that's the hospital I was working at is where they took most of the patients to. So I knew some nurses who were able to give care that night.
I see.
Which is horrible. After the Pulse shooting, after all that happened, not only being an advocate for blood donations, I'm also trying to be an advocate for Stop the Bleed. I don't know if you've ever heard of that campaign before.
I have not heard that campaign.
Stop the Bleed. All right. I want to get every nurse behind this campaign. It's rolled out by the Department of Homeland Security. It was rolled out by the White House during the Obama administration to educate the public on bleeding control and to make bleeding control kits readily available. So tourniquets, gauze, gloves in airports, malls, schools, kind of like AEDs are available.
And this is for like traumatic, if there's
active
Gunshots
shooter.
and stuff like that? Yes.
Yeah,
I see.
so
I see.
any type of mass casualty incident where you have victims that the public, anybody can access this kit and give care. So at my hospital I was working at in Houston, I was educating the public on how to control bleeding, and any nurse can get trained on that and go out in the community and educate people. And our hospital also installed kits around our facility, which is pretty cool. So it was cool leading that initiative and walking around my hospital and seeing the kits on the wall.
That's amazing. I didn't even think about that. I mean, it's sad that we have to come to that, part where it's like, we might need something available in case there is a mass shooting. Where is that campaign now, and how do people get, involved?
Yeah, you could just type in Google "Stop the Bleed" or "bleeding control," and you'll be able to find information on how to get trained. Like I said, any nurse can become a trainer, and then the training can be delivered to anybody. So that's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, older adults in a senior center. I even taught some trauma surgeons and some other nurses on bleeding control. So I encourage everyone to get out there and learn how to control bleeding. Especially a lot of nurses, like in the ER, yeah, you put on a tourniquet, but going through nursing school, like they don't really teach you about how to apply a tourniquet.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just so common. Wow. You must have went to UCF, right?
Yeah, we learned about tourniquets, but we never applied them.
So like the hands-on experience of actually applying a tourniquet. That's
correct.
You think that's like 101, right? Survival.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
So we talked a little bit about your blog and some of the campaigns that you've been involved with. One was Stop the Bleed, and you created the one called Banned4Life. What made you want to become a nurse? Because I feel like I've done a lot of interviews and met a lot of people. There was a catalyst or something that kind of led them to go into healthcare.
Yeah, I think a lot of nurses were very caring. We like to care for people. And we also like to have a voice for people who don't have one. And when I was 15 years old, my parents found out that I was gay. And that's kind of in Florida.
I'm from Florida. I know how, yeah. It was pretty tough for you coming out, I'm sure.
Yeah, just 10 years ago. I'm 26 now. So when I came out, 11 years ago, the world was completely different than it is today.
Wow.
Yeah, my parents didn't take it very well. So from the time I was 15 to 18, I was in gay conversion therapy, where they would try to change your sexuality. It obviously didn't work because I'm married now to a man, Brett. But
I grew up in a very religious background. I've talked to people that have been through this therapy. That's crazy to me. Like, how do you tell someone, hey, change your sexuality? I mean, describe the process for me, because I would think it would almost be traumatizing in a sense to deny who you are.
Oh, yeah. It was very traumatic. And I think it's even affected me more now as an adult. And it's still something I think about, on a weekly basis. It was never anything physical. Everything that they taught and would educate us on was all either emotional or verbal. It was kind of like pray the gay away therapy, like you can overcome this. It's just a phase kind of thing. Looking back on it now, it just sounds ridiculous. And when I tell people I went through gay conversion therapy, they just kind of laugh at first because they don't know how to react. And it just sounds ridiculous. But that was my life when I was 15 to 18. I would go to this camp every summer. And then in between the summers, I would have numerous counselors, trying to pray my sexuality would change, phone calls and boot camps for years. And this is a time when you're really trying to find yourself and develop yourself and who you want to become. And I really think what I went through just made me want to be a nurse, because I wanted to care for people and help give people a voice. The only person who was really supportive during my change was my grandmother. And I love her so much. She was always there for me. She's someone who's loved me, 100%. She's not a nurse, but I've always wanted to strive to be her. And if she were a nurse, to deliver the care that I know she would deliver. Just because she was there for me, she always supported me from the beginning. But yeah, gay conversion therapy, can you believe that?
I can't, because I think like praying the gay way, it's almost like I would think that you would be living your life in complete denial. So like were the counselors, were the people like, hey, we're like recovering former gay conversion therapy people? Like, were they like, I used to be gay and now I'm trying to tell you that there's a way?
I used to be gay. I used to be really, really gay. And now I'm married and I have 5 kids and we're so happy. I still have attractions, but you could overcome that. You could sleep them off.
It's like drinking. Like, I drink too much, but now I stay away from the bottle. So I'm not gay kind of thing.
Yeah. It's like, hi, my name is Blake and I'm gay. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So the program I was in was called Exodus. And a few years ago, they actually had to close the doors because it was causing people a lot of emotional, traumatic experiences. So I'm so happy they closed. But this therapy still goes on. I mean, more than 40 states still allow this therapy to happen for teenagers. Yeah, over 40 states. Still, it's illegal to do gay conversion therapy.
I had no idea, because I grew up, like I said, in a religious background, and I knew which people that I grew up with were gay. There's no denying it whatsoever, but they couldn't come out. They didn't have that voice. So it's good that you had your grandmother for support, when you did come out.
Yeah, and now 26 years old, I'm myself, I'm transparent, I could be who I really am, and that's always a good feeling. So whatever I do in my blog, it's very honest, it's very open, people could ask me anything, because I just want to share my experiences with other nurses.
Yeah, I think there was someone in my church who was so afraid of, being exposed. I think he was suicidal.
Yeah, it's really, really sad. It really didn't start affecting me emotionally probably until I was 24. And I had to start seeing a counselor and really talking about it because I tried to, I think, hide from it and forget about the therapy and forget about the conversion stuff. But then I kind of needed to bring it all back up because it was still affecting me. And my anxiety got so bad, especially last year. I was 25 years old. My anxiety was crazy. I couldn't be in crowds. I would get nervous at work. Just little things would set off my anxiety, and I started having panic attacks, and I've never had them in my life. But it all led back to the traumatic verbal abuse that I went through during those therapies.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like Banned4Life, that campaign, do you feel like having a cause and finally being, I wouldn't say exposed, but like that freedom of being liberated, or just you can be yourself? Do you feel like that was kind of like therapeutic for you?
Oh, it was great. I think Banned4Life, the campaign got so big and so large, even the FDA was talking about it. We put so much pressure on the FDA that it was covered by a lot of news stations, and people would talk about me as the guy who slept with other guys who can't donate blood. And I thought it was so funny because I don't know how old I was in 2013. But anyway, I would be sitting on the couch with my family and the news would come on and they would talk about me in Banned4Life as the man who sleeps with other men who can't donate blood. And I'm like, oh my God, what a 360, But my parents were very supportive of my Banned4Life campaign. After I turned 18, everything turned around with them. They were more accepting and open. They love my husband now, Brett. I don't know what it was, but just that time between I was 15 to 18. But then again, it was 10 years ago, and the world was much different.
A lot different.
For the LGBTQ community 10 years ago.
Yeah. What's next for you, man? It seems like you've been part of a lot of big things.
My last job, I was in injury prevention and community outreach, which is so cool. But I think every nurse has to find out what their real passion is, because you may be a med-surg nurse and you don't feel like you're doing great things, even though you are, but you find your passion for the NICU, and now you're like, wow, I really feel like I'm making a difference. And that was the change, and that was the job that I really needed to make me feel like a nurse. So I'm living in Seattle now, so I'm West Coast kind of guy. I'm so excited. I'm going to take a few months off, focus on my blog.
Yeah, from Florida to Washington State, man, that's a huge haul.
I know, right?
So what advice would you give to the nurses that you would say that are unhappy at the bedside, or just unhappy being as a nurse where they're at?
I would say, get out of there. If you're unhappy with your job, go find a new one. There's numerous jobs out there. And if you're unhappy at the bedside, don't think that you just don't want to be a nurse anymore. Because there's so many opportunities away from the bedside where maybe you'll even feel more empowered and like you're making a bigger difference. So for me, that was injury prevention and community outreach. It was a perfect position for me. A lot of people would say, oh, but you're not really a nurse anymore because you're not at the bedside. But for me, that's where I felt that I was a real nurse making a difference because it was something that I was passionate about. But I didn't know about this job opportunity until I was unhappy at the bedside. So if I hadn't have found it, maybe I just would have left nursing, the whole profession. But I'm so happy I found it because it definitely lighted a passion in me that made me want to start this blog and educate other nurses. And my real goal with the blog is to make nurses smile and make nurses laugh and then educate them on numerous different topics. I feel like a lot of the blogs or personalities that are out there for nursing just focus on nursing school and getting nursing students through nursing school. There's not really anything there to help motivate people who are nurses at the bedside. So I've been there. I worked night shift. I worked the day shift. I worked in med surg, I worked in ICU, I worked in trauma, and now injury prevention. So I just want to share my crazy experiences I've had with other nurses. And what I'm learning is that these other nurses relate to me. I'm not alone. So I just want to create a positive community of nurses. And then if we could do some advocacy work in there, whether that be, safer staffing ratios, or higher pay or whatever. I mean, I would love to get back into campaigns or create another campaign that nurses are passionate about. And that was what was so great about the campaign Banned4Life is that I didn't do that by myself. I didn't change the FDA policy by myself. It was the nursing students and the nursing community that really helped make that change happen.
That's awesome, man, because I feel like a lot of nurses need that voice too. Just kind of like that support from the outside, maybe kind of like how your grandmother was to you, during your time. And I see this in a lot of nurses. You've probably seen this too, where nurses are so tunnel vision sometimes. They get used to a floor and they're afraid to explore a little bit because they get comfortable, and they don't like the change. So for instance, when I decided to do travel nursing, people were like, well, why do you want to do that? They gave me like 1,000 reasons on why not to do it,
right,
but didn't tell me the reasons to do it, right? So it's good that you're providing that exposure, knowledge, and stuff that, hey, you're not stuck. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah.
Smile, have fun, laugh,
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I want my blog to be about.
So how do people get in contact with your blog?
Yeah, nurseblake.com. You also find me on Facebook, Nurse Blake. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram.
Thank you, Nurse Blake, for coming onto the show, this podcast, NSR National Scrubs Radio. You're welcome back. I hope you can give us an update in the near future.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I think this is great.
All right, thank you so much.
See you.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, with your host, Derek J. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit Facebook and Twitter @NatScrubsRadio. We'll catch you next time.